And they look like everybody's having fun, but they sound like crap because they're on stage. Here we're doing that, live performance in a room designed to sound good. And we capture something really good, and it's fun. So I just do it because it's fun.
You also have a workshop out there?
Well, I'm still active. I still develop product. I consult. I have patents. I have 5 patents. Most of those I sold with the company, but I still maintain the most interesting patent.
Which is the space station.
It's the center point stereo, yes.
We'll be getting into.
Yeah, I hope so. I think you like that. It's of all the things I've ever done, it's the most rewarding to me because I love listening to stereo. When I listen to music, I prefer stereo to mono, which might sound like an obvious statement. And so many instruments like the keyboard, guitar effects are stereo today. And we basically, all keyboard amps, and pretty much even if PAs are capable of being stereo, we don't use stereo. Stereo is something we don't use in live performance. Well, we came up and invented a way, interestingly enough, inspired by an old microphone technique that we're using right now. This and most Handycam type cameras have what's called a mid-side stereo microphone, a directional and a figure 8 that combine to give you the width of a stereo. We're listening to ourselves right now, a little off-center. You're to one side, I'm to the other because of an MS microphone technique. And we use that same technique backwards, which I'll explain a little later, to create a speaker that produces stereo everywhere from a single location. And we're developing that basic technology for small portable sound systems to large keyboard rigs to guitar rigs, and have been doing that. And that's something I maintained that product, the patent and so forth. I still license that to Fender. They're bringing out a new 3rd generation of guitar amp they call it SFX, Stereo Field Expansion. The patent and what we originated was called center point stereo, which is probably it's stereo that comes from a center point, and it's stereo everywhere you stand in the room.
Sweet spot everywhere.
There's no sour spots.
Nice.
There's none. Unlike stereo, which has a very small sweet spot, this is everywhere. And unlike stereo, this will actually go through an open door into the next room and through that door into the next room, and you're still hearing stereo. The ping pong's still going left and right. The Leslie still spins.
Amazing.
It's pretty neat.
Amazing.
So I kept that. So I have my finger in it a little bit that I still am developing products.
And that's to the consumer market as well, correct?
Oh, that's directly to consumer, pretty much. Yeah, I have
the
new business model in that I have no employees, as I did before. I have one vendor, a very reputable American speaker company called Eminence, who's building this for me, my design. And it's just my first entry back into doing something like that. And I have one vendor, which is probably the most famous internet vendor, Sweetwater Sound. They are very, very highly respected, very great business model, neat people. And they're going to be my only distributor for the product, which is all I need. It's available from Sweetwater, and it's not a lot of money. And if it has a success, I hope it has. They used to sell this product before I sold the company, and Fender chose not to make this product, so I'm back doing it kind of by popular demand. A lot of people using them out there, and they want more, so we're building another one.
So through your life-altering experience with the business, the stress, you never lost your passion, though, for sound.
No, it's a blessing curse. You know, you hear bad sound, it really bothers you. You hear good sound, you just really enjoy it. And guitar players have Eric Johnson, I think, described it, or was described as having mosquito ears. You know, you ever try to swat a mosquito and he's gone before you get there? I mean, those ears. And when we had groove tubes, you used to have a rating system, 1 to 10, and it would be rating the way we match tubes, and it had a musical property that could be predictable. It had either early distortion or late distortion, 10 being the most dynamic range, 1 being the softest, quickest turnover, the softer, more distortion, if you will. And we had guys that knew exactly what they were going to get when they bought a set of tubes, and they could repeat it. They would, sample what it's like, light gauge strings or heavy gauge strings. You know what you want on your guitar, you go get it, and you don't have to set it all up again. So we kind of quantified that with tubes. And Eric used to like 4.5s. He wanted to know where between 4 and 5 these tubes sat, because he had tried a lot of them, and he had very good ears. He could hear that.
Splitting hairs.
He could hear that difference.
Wow.
And a lot of guys can. I have ears like that. I always have.
And how have you protected your ears? Because a lot of people in the industry, especially
when I realized I needed to protect them, it was way too late. But I still, God blessed me with good ears.
You still have your highs.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Nice.
I do. I can absolutely. Little tinnitus is in there still. I can hear if things get real quiet. You can definitely tell I got a noise floor or a bell floor, a lot like a lot of the guys that listen to too loud amps for too long. But I take more cautions now. I don't go out to a lot of live concerts out of earplugs.
Right. Now, as we walk in Aspen's place, it's almost like a museum. Now, I don't know if that was an intention. Are you a collector, or is this just the result of being in the business your whole life?
Well, both. I am a collector. There's a real famous collector called J.B. Nettercutt. He's dead now. He had a place just up the road in Sylmar here called the San Sylmar, the Nettercutt Museum, and he collected. His theme was art that functioned. And he has music boxes. He has a full Wurlitzer pipe organ, and he has a collection of pretty much every audio device from the first Berliner disc right up until modern stuff and music boxes. And he also collects automobiles and things that function. And he loved the engineering and the design behind those things, even things we use every day like a car. And I guess that kind of describes me. I was very interested in how guitars worked. I pulled them apart and put them together. I guess I was putting humbuckers and Stratocasters in the mid-'60s, long before it became a product on the Fender catalog. And I was playing around with what made things tick. Yeah, and also everybody had a different way of doing something. So I tended to collect the whole set. And if it was guitars, I had to have all the Fender guitars. If it was acoustic guitars, I wanted 3 or 4 Gibsons and 3 or 4 Martins. And as I was in a position to get those at reasonable prices, and I was a much better collector of guitars than I ever was a player, but I could play them and it was fun. And of course, when I got into the studio business, I started collecting microphones. I had hundreds of microphones, and I loved seeing how they made a ribbon mic, how they made a condenser mic. I learned from the fundamentals, with tubes. I wound up building tubes by disassembling tubes. We made tubes from scratch. In fact, we made tubes in this facility. I bought the old GE manufacturing line and had grid winders, and I was very interested in the component level of my guitar amps, how the boards went together, how the components went on the boards. There was a lot of controversy about point-to-point wiring or PC boards, and I used combinations of both because I think they both had attributes, good ones. Same thing on microphones. We built ribbon mics. One problem with ribbon mics was that the ribbons are very fragile. They break if you blow on a ribbon mic. They sound wonderful. Elvis recorded on ribbons. Sinatra recorded on ribbons in the early days. So did Patsy Cline. It's a lot of the great songs you've heard recorded on ribbon mics, but they have a very thin aluminum diaphragm and they tend to blow out. And they're very expensive and time-consuming to fix. And so when we developed our ribbon mic, we upped the bar. We made an field interchangeable ribbon and we actually sent an extra ribbon with every microphone. So with a Swiss Army knife, you could change out your ribbon in 10 minutes. No soldering iron required. And then send us back and we'd re-ribbon it for you. So at every turn, whether that be building a tube or a microphone or whatever, those collections that I had gathered were the basis of how to move the bar to the next step. Here's how 5 different guys do it. Take a little bit from everybody. Build my own amp. Build my own microphone. Build my own tube. Nice. So the collecting evolved into the interest in making it better. And now I'm back to just making music. And again, looking backwards, using some techniques from older days. When you saw Sinatra record in the old days, he was sitting in a big room with the orchestra, and it was all mic'd up, and if he didn't like the way it was going, he'd stop the orchestra. And there's some great video out there on how they recorded this stuff, but it was done live. This one great one of him recording, it was a very good year in Capitol Records, and he's smoking a cigarette, and there's 3 blondes with beehives over there, and they're watching him, and I forget who the conductor was of the orchestra, but there's Tommy Tedesco on guitar, and here's the whole, maybe it was David Rose, I'm not sure who, but he's smoking a cigarette, and it starts out the song, and he gets about, maybe 5-6 bars in, and says, hold on a second, that's just a little too slow, we need to speed that up. Can we speed that up? Okay, so everybody makes some changes, and then they take it. And you know that the song you're watching being recorded on film, because they didn't have video in those days, is exactly the song that you heard on the radio.
Wow.
And you're seeing the environment, complete with him holding the cigarette through it, and you couldn't do that in the studio today. By the way, we don't allow smoking here at Aspen's Place. We don't go that far into the vintage.